gun raises a complex set of issues that change according to one factor: whose hand happens to be holding the gun. A gun upsets the natural order of things, if you'll excuse the expression. For example, Malcolm Johnson of New York, Queens, was convicted of 2 charges of rape a month ago. He was armed with a handgun. The natural order would dictate that he would win against a weaker woman regardless of the gun. Now, what if the woman was also armed against this man? How would that upset the natural order? Well, regardless of whatever they say about placing legal restrictions on guns, vicious predators like Mr. Johnson, who ignore laws against murder, mayhem, and gun trafficking, routinely ignore existing American gun laws such as the Brady Bill, which calls for background checks and a 1-week waiting period. No amount of well-meaning, wishful thinking will cause criminals like him to honor additional gun laws. Statistics collected by the Bureau of Justice show that only 15% of the inmates in prison for gun crimes obtained their guns in a retail store. After all, with roughly 233 million firearms in the U.S. as of 2008, also affirmed by the Bureau of Justice, and a healthy black market for guns, there's absolutely no incentive for a potential criminal to fill out a form and wait an entire week. I mean, with that many firearms in America, if you took them all and handed them out one at a time to every adult in the U.S., you will run out of adults before you run out of guns. And unlike drugs or stolen designer handbags, guns last practically forever. So a single handgun can be reused for years on end, regardless of whether or not new guns are being bought. Existing gun laws impact only those who are willing to comply with such laws. Good people who already honor the laws of common decency. Placing further restraints on good citizens will further disarm those good people, especially disarming good, poor people, the people who live in urban areas most susceptible to crime. People without the spare cash needed to go through your process of buying a gun and paying for the psychotherapy or psychoanalysis, such as the 2 women Mr. Johnson had raped. Guns may kill, yes, but guns themselves are not evil. They're not morally wrong. In Switzerland, every adult is issued an assault rifle for militia duty and is allowed to keep the gun at home. On a per capita basis, Switzerland has more firearms than just about any other country, and yet it is one of the safest places in the world, with only 34 gun crimes committed in the year of 2006. In other words, guns actually do not cause crime. It is, again, whose hand happens to be holding the gun. But all the moral implications aside, passing a law is difficult and unpractical. There are many lobbyists within America who seek to defend the right to bear arms. Lobbyists are specially formed groups that seek to influence the public opinion. One of the biggest pro-gun ownership groups is called the National Rifle Association, one of the oldest continuously operating civil rights organizations in the United States. Ranked the most influential advocacy group by Fortune magazine, and it claims more than 4 million members nationwide. In addition to that, there is the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, the Firearms of Liberty, Gun Owners of America, and the Second Amendment Foundation. They represent almost 45% of the U.S. population that are pro-gun ownership and anti-gun control, as supported by the Pew Research Center, the People and the Press. With this kind of opposition, it is not unreasonable to say that it is unlikely such a law will be passed. With the general sentiment of pro-gun ownership can be seen in the defeat of a state Senate bill proposed by Rendell in 2007, which limited the amount of guns that can be bought, the defeat of a Virginian state Senate bill in 2008 with similar restrictions, and a defeat of the Senate Bill 1257 of 2009, which had also tried to restrict gun sales and enforce background checks. Against such an opposition, a law is unlikely to be passed. A better plan for the government to enact is to promote protective gun use, make acquiring guns easier for the general population as it is in Switzerland. In fact, encourage vulnerable citizens to take up arms for their own protection, make guns cheap and widely available. Malcolm Johnson would have thought twice before trying to rape a woman if she might have been carrying a gun. Any thief might not rob a house if they thought the owner had a shotgun ready. Giving guns the weaker side and upsetting the natural order will decrease violence more effectively than trying to take guns away from everyone, because the criminals now have a deterrent against rape, violence, any kind of crime involving guns, because the other side might also have a gun. Vote for protection. Vote for true protection. Vote negative. Thank you all.